future due to my, I don't know how to explain this, but I'm
You have
sorry.
created trauma in an individual that will last her a lifetime for a choice you took from her. You do not have the right to sit here before me and especially her to tell her to rise up and be her own person. If you had any victim empathy at this point, you would be apologizing for putting her in a position like that.
Boom. That is the mic drop by the parole board member that we have been waiting for to see something like that from Utah. And here we go. Now, we're about to watch a parole hearing for a man who was given a life sentence for what he did to her, but up for parole after serving just 10 months. Now, we've learned that about Utah. Their sentences are gimmicks, but we know better now. We'll jump in and unpack it with some details at the end.
On it. Oh man. Okay. What I plan on doing today, we're going to go through your committing offense. I do want to make note that we do have the victim here in this case who, as far as I'm aware, is still wanting to make a statement. Yes. And so I will give her time at some point in this hearing to do so. When she does that, I'm going to ask that you remain quiet, focus on me basically, and any response be directed toward me, not her, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
And we'll get to that in just a little bit later. I also do want to note that I did receive a letter from your attorney on your case, on a case that you're appealing. Is this the case that you are appealing?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you appealing the conviction of the case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So basically how this is going to work in that we currently have a conviction and that's what the board deals with, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So I will still be going through the case as outlined. I'll ask if there's anything you want to add to it, anything you want to discuss about it, whatever. And then we're going to continue through the hearing as normal. Does that make sense? It's a little different when it comes to these appeal cases. They'll be reviewing the court process, things like that. As far as that goes, I have the information that I have before me that got you convicted on these charges. And it sounds like that you had entered into a plea deal, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anything you want to talk about so far
No, ma'am.
in regard to that? Okay. So in case 201-900-745, you were convicted of felony 1 attempted rape and a 3rd-degree felony attempted forcible sexual sex abuse. Is that accurate, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Looks like this occurred around March 24th, 2019, where officers were notified of a rape which occurred at a bar. Stated that the victim in this case exited the stall and was approached in the bathroom, the female's bathroom, was approached by you, whom she recognized as a regular patron of the bar. She stated that you pushed her against the wall and kissed her face and mouth. She also stated that she made the comment that she did not feel well, sat on the ground, and tried to make herself throw up in an attempt to dissuade you from further action. She stated that you put your penis into her mouth on multiple times throughout this encounter, stated that she is not okay with this. She stated that you touched her breasts, sucked on her nipples, and touched her vagina as she tried to call for her friends. She stated that she began to hyperventilate, have a panic attack, and that you told her to lie on the floor because the floor was cold. Sorry. She also stated that she got to her feet and placed her hands on the bar to help her balance, at which point you grabbed her pants, forced them down, stated she does not fully remember all of what happened from this point, as she may have blacked out, stated that she remembers lying on the floor on her stomach and that you were having sex with her from behind. She stated that she remembers your penis in her vagina. She stated that she woke up and was not wearing any pants or underwear. Her bra was undone and she had bite marks on her. On April 9th, 2021, it states that officers had made contact with you at that point, stated that hold on. Oh, you had not made contact with you, but they had made other contact with individuals who were in the same building that you had been living in, and they had informed the officers that you had moved to California. Is that accurate, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is the information in the report, did you want to add anything to that?
That whole thing is slightly correct, but not every single thing in there, ma'am.
Is there anything you wanted to add to it?
Not right at this moment. Later on, I would like to, but not right this second.
Um, Sir, if there's restitution owing in this case at some point, are you willing to pay that?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me a little bit about your substance use history, sir.
What was that, ma'am?
Substance use history?
I don't have much substance abuse history. I do have two pending write-ups that, or not write-ups, but two write-ups for substance abuse A13s, but those are not because I use drugs. Under the guideline of the A13 substance abuse, I was unable to urinate for them at one time, and the other time I was able to urinate for them, but I or my apologies for my language, but I urinated frequently too much water in that. So, and I offered to give multiple different samples to prove that I did not have any substance issues.
Do you have any mental health diagnoses, sir?
Not that I'm aware of, ma'am, no.
Okay, how's your physical health?
Slightly good. I think I need a prostate check, but that's about it.
Tell me what you've done since you've been here. Have you been able to get into programming, what you've completed?
On coming into this prison, ma'am, from as soon as I left RNO, I started to try to apply to every single program I possibly could. I tried to even apply for the SOTP program, whatever program I could do to further better myself, and I have. I've bettered myself beyond belief. I've done that victim impact class and I've passed that. I took an anger management class. I passed that recently, and then right now I'm in VTs, vocational training, to help me transition when I get out. That's business tech, and I've also am in Slick College right now, man. And I'm just trying to put in whatever possible classes I can do later on.
Okay. As far as the SOTP program, did you receive a response from them?
I have not. Now, in order for me to be able to do any program at all, they're telling me that I have to get notified by you guys to do whatever program. And I tried to enter myself in multiple times. They would not let me start. They could.
So with these types of offenses, typically there's going to be a sex offender assessment that will be conducted, and that will determine what risk they feel as though you are, and will guide their programming. The hiccup you may run into is that with you appealing your case, that may put things on hold, but it depends specifically on what you're appealing. I know typically they'll still admit individuals if it's certain aspects, if they're admitting to the charge, but it might be something like sentencing, whatever, that they may be appealing, just to give you an idea of what could potentially hold things up or prohibit you from getting into sex offender programming. But typically they're still able to do the assessment and see where we're at with that as far as all of that goes. Does that make sense?
It does. I still haven't received any assessment of any sort, but I don't understand. I'm hoping that you guys could just tell them to have me do the program regardless whether of the facts. You know, I'm willing to do 100% everything I can.
Yeah, and I understand that. I'm just informing you of that's typically the way that goes. They may still, so like you had mentioned when I read the case to you, you feel like some of it's accurate. There are some things that may not be accurate. They may still work with you and allowing you to come into programming for sex offender specific treatment. But depending on what it is that you're appealing, and they'll talk to you more about this when an order comes in for a sex offender assessment to be completed in your case, to kind of get a better idea of where you're at, if they're going to be able to treat you, if that's what their recommendation is, as far as that goes. This will at least get you to the point of sex offender treatment. And I do see that you have gotten into some programming, that you have completed some programming, such as like your impact of crime, as well as your anger management, and that you're in a couple of other things. And so I would encourage you to continue to stay in some of those things until that piece can get, which you're already doing, which is a positive thing for sure. And so once we get that sex offender assessment, it'll kind of help us moving forward. It's possible that they're aware that you're appealing something with your case, and that's why they haven't made contact with you. Sometimes they'll make contact before this hearing to get that assessment completed, or a psychosexual evaluation or something like that. Sometimes they won't. A lot of times, if people are appealing their cases, they won't do it, given the parameters of what the appeal is. But with an order, they may, and I've already emailed them about potentially being able to do a sex offender assessment in regard to your case specifically, with that appeal happening. So, and I have not received this response just yet. And the letter that I received from your attorney, I just received as of this morning, is when I found it, basically. So that's what kind of led me to contact sex offender treatment, which is why I haven't, there may be a response in my box right now. I don't have the internet here. Which also, given the circumstances, in regard to the sex specific case, I would go more into that with you with a sex offender assessment, as far as history, things like that, which I would more than likely do at a further hearing in regard to that. So more than likely you would be facing a rehearing with a sex offender assessment to be completed at some point. Does that make sense?
I anticipated as much, ma'am. Yes.
Which can also be frustrating for the victim in this case, for sure. But the way the system is, that's kind of where we're at this point, in regard to that. So I will, I'll turn to you to make a statement if you would still like to do so, for sure. Let me swear you in real quick. Could you state your name for the record, ma'am?
April.
Go ahead and raise your right hand for me. Do you affirm that the information you are about to give is truthful and accurate?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Go ahead and tell me what you would like me to know.
Okay. This is the fourth victim impact statement I've needed to write because of Mohammed's selfish action to rape me on the disgusting floor of the men's bathroom of a bar. There were jurors and witnesses in place ready to go when trial started, and he changed his mind again that morning to accept the plea deal which had been offered to him, which also was previously modified multiple times due to him attempting to get a lesser charge than he was originally given. This was not attempted rape. It happened. His genitals were shoved inside of me so violently. I was bleeding and bruised. My vagina was bleeding and bruised, and my butt was bruised because he forcibly sodomized me. I had a mark on my breast for over a week where he bit me so hard. The night before trial, I was awake all night, fighting off panic attacks, going through my statement and trying to get through it without tears and panic, trying to feel safe because I was facing him again. He's only been in prison like 10 months. And in court, he did everything to drag this on, waiving his own rights to a speedy trial so he could, quote, get her face to face with me. He said this in court to me in front of the judge. And I was not informed or shown any indication that he had an interest in bettering himself. He wasn't participating in counseling or classes that would reform this behavior moving forward. He could not even come up with an apology in court when he was given the opportunity. I am also serving a sentence for this disgusting, selfish act. I don't get probation. I don't get appeal being raped. I don't get an ankle monitor. It happened and it has significantly changed my life. I've had to quit a job that I loved. I can't enter public bathrooms by myself. I am 37 years old. I can't go to the bathroom alone. I suffer panic attacks and ongoing anxiety from this. It's changed my relationship with others as well as intimacy with my partner. I'm divorced due to the issues that I endured from being raped in this violent act. I am aware that he's not going to stay in prison forever, but I'm here to explain that I want him to finish his sentence as well as maintain registration as a sex offender. I don't want him to be able to hurt me or another person again.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir, what would you like me to know?
Where to start? You know, where can I start to say that every single second I've tried to better myself? Every single attempt I've done when I was notified of these charges. I came back from California. I understand where she's coming from, and there's nothing you can ever do to replace that. But I've done every single thing in my power to try to help, to try to show something. And I can't say anything. I understand you want me to sit here and rot for the rest of my life. I probably will, regardless of appealing this charge or not. I'm gonna be sitting here. Your life has changed, but I can't change that. I can only tell you, not ask you, tell you to stand up for yourself and move forward. You're gonna be stuck in this little rut for your life. Don't use me as a holdback to push to hold your future.
Sir, I'm
If-
going to stop you right there because I'm not going to sit here and have you verbally attack a victim
No,
that
I'm
you
trying to-
took a choice from.
I know I'm
So
not trying to attack.
I will give you one more chance to state something, but what I'm hearing you
Yes, ma'am.
is completely different than any empathy for a decision you chose to take from her
Yes, ma'am.
without her consent.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
I'm not going to sit here and listen to that.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry if it came across that. What I'm trying to say is rise up and push. You know, I know you can better your future due to I don't know how to explain this, but I'm
You have
sorry.
created trauma in an individual that will last her a lifetime for a choice you took from her. You do not have the right to sit here before me and especially her to tell her to rise up and be her own person. If you had any victim empathy at this point, you would be apologizing for putting her in a position like that. And I'm not hearing remorse whatsoever.
I'm sorry.
Whether
ma'am.
the facts of the case you don't agree with or whatever, your appeal may be happening, and that's fine.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
You have put her in a position where she is fearing for situations that a 37-year-old individual shouldn't have to fear. Because you made a decision to take for whatever your 5, 10, 15 minutes of pleasure and put her through hell.
If I can please restart from that. I did not mean to come across anything of that sort. My apologies for making it sound like I'm unempathetic. I truly do apologize for all these actions that I've taken right now. I'm beyond apologetic. If I can try anything in any way to try to help you, I wish I could right now. I wish I could. If I could give me the death penalty right now, if that would make her feel better, I really wish I could. I can't do anything right now. Only thing I can do is try to do a little bit better to help this community. And I'm sorry. I really am. I would like my communication skills aren't 100%, and I apologize for coming off as if I'm a piece of shit to her. I'm sorry for my language for that. I'm not trying to at all. I'm so, I'm sorry.
Second half of that was far better than the first half of that, sir.
That's all I can do. I'm sorry for the first half too. You have no idea. My intention was not to try to make it sound like to make it to attack her in any way. I wasn't. I'm not even trying to do that. I'm just sorry. I'm sorry.
Sir, tell me what you feel like so far through your programming that you've completed, what you've learned. The impact of crime, you should have learned something. Tell me what you learned from it, sir.
I've learned not only did I hurt her, but I hurt her family. I hurt your mom. I hurt everybody around you. Not just you. I've hurt everybody around me as well. You will forever be changed from this. I can only try to make amends and try to better myself for that. But the impact that's been caused is irreversible. Your mom, your sisters, your husband, everybody around you, the people around you there are all changed because of this. I learned that because of those actions, that's why victim impact crime has taught me that, man.
Tell me what you feel like has changed for you moving forward so that when you do eventually parole, because you will eventually parole at some point, how this is going to, how you've changed so this doesn't happen in the future.
Right now, I'm trying to get my college degree so that way I can better get a job. I'm trying to stay away from bad crowds of people. I'm trying to not go to any bars or do anything of any sort. I'm trying to distance myself from everybody, not in that sense, but distance myself from the bad people and try to further surround myself with good uprising people that are genuinely a good statue in the community.
Tell me the type of people you were surrounding yourself prior.
Alcoholics, gang members, drug addicts. I should never do that.
Are you a gang member at all?
No, ma'am.
Were you ever?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Is there anything else or you would like the board to know at this point?
Uh, I'm willing to do whatever I can. Whatever is what I've been trying to do whatever I can. And I can't do what is necessarily need to be done regardless of anything because I need you guys to tell them, put me in wherever.
Anything else, sir?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for having you being here right now and for her being here too. I'm sorry for the cop having to be here right now due to me. If it weren't for people like criminals, they wouldn't need to be here. You guys could be sitting home right now.
Well, sir, what I plan on doing is taking the information we discussed today, compiling that into a report, submitting that to the board. The board is made up of 5 members. It takes a majority vote for them to make a decision in your case. Usually takes about 2 to 4 weeks for them to get that decision out to you. Like I mentioned before, more than likely they're going to order a sex offender assessment treatment or sex offender assessment, and possibly a rehearing, well, for sure a rehearing, but at a later date in order for you to be able to get into treatment if that's what happens. If they don't order or if the treatment for sex offender programming is not recommended, more than likely you'll have to remain CAP compliant to do other types of programming that they've assessed you to complete. So it's like your anger management you've talked about, things like that. You do have a 45-month guideline, which puts you at April 3rd of 2025. You were given credit for time served for 690 days toward that guideline. You also need to understand that guideline is what it is. It's just a guideline, meaning they can go below that, on there to pass that, depending on if they want to see you complete something prior to a parole. You also have a 100-year expiration date, which puts you at July 3rd of 2121. That is the length of time the board can have jurisdiction over your case, given there are no other future offenses. Any other questions for me, sir? You have any other questions? Okay, we'll go ahead and conclude this hearing. Thank you. Good luck to you and have a good day, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
I am riding so high off of seeing this. Kathleen, the parole board member who stood up there like a mama bear and put this where he belongs. How come we can't see that more often? The survivor shows up in person. She states the facts of the case. She is brave to stand there and lay down the truth. Isn't it amazing how maybe that power shift could have happened right there in that room at that moment? She talks about all of the pain and suffering and trauma. It is just nice to see whatever happens from there. But the power dynamic, how the little guy is squirming in his chair and then like whimpering and like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't, because the parole board officer Kathleen, she didn't let him get away with it. She laid down the law. Someone needs to do it in Utah. Now, he was, and thank you, Richard, for the information. He has a rehearing in 2026. That's how it works in Utah. They give life sentences, but they're gimmicks, the life sentences, because as you can see, he has parole eligibility after 10 months. And even with this complete failure of a parole hearing, he's going to get another hearing in 2 years and 1 month. And that means the survivor is going to have to show up here every 2 years. That's just, it's really unconscionable, if that's how you say that word. It really is. These sentences are gimmicks. And just any type of, I guess, to hear it, what's it teach us? It teaches us that the parole board members can do it in Utah. It might not happen very often, but they can. And it's nice to see it happen by Kathleen Mama Bear. She just laid down the law. You know, he was trying to say something. He was basically trying to say what he's thinking, which is, what's the big deal? Get over it. Oh, you know, I just did this one thing to you. Just get over it. And he was trying to like form the words and tactfully, and then it just gets shut down. And then he gets another try and he screws up again. And then and the whole thing's fake. He didn't, I mean, he was handcuffed, but still, he didn't reach for a tissue box. He's just trying to, you know, squirm his way around. Remember, he's in the middle of an appeal. He pled guilty. He probably didn't realize I don't know, he pled guilty and now he's appealing something, but he's in an appeal. And he goes on to say, I don't know what I would do if you could give me the death penalty to make her feel better, I'll do that. And it's like, wow, you two-faced loser, liar, you know, roach. It's like, it was just 10 months ago that you showed up and didn't give an apology and said the things that you did at your like sentencing hearing, and you're in the middle of an appeal. And you really get the death penalty? I mean, maybe that's probably what he was facing, which is why he took a plea deal. It's just you're like a coward, a real coward, typical. He didn't even listen to a word she said. I'm sorry what it did with your husband. It's like, yeah, she's divorced now. And he brings up her husband. it's it's really the system in Utah is a gimmick. It's a joke. We don't have information on this case. I don't have anything. It just shows the date that he was convicted was May 16th, 2023. And they called it attempted, which is what they allowed him to plead to, which is such an insult to the survivor. And she stated it in her statement. It wasn't attempt. And she states what happened. But they let him plead to attempt because, you know, why not? And unbelievably, he has his hearing. He has his hearing on just like less than a year later. It's like 10 months later from his conviction date. How is that possible? How is it that as a survivor, you sit in court and see the judge give a sentence and not even a year goes by? You don't even have a 1-year anniversary for the sentencing, and you have to sit in a parole hearing again? You have to see him, sit across from him? It's like, how is that possible? How is that even possible? It's insane. The system, they had the audacity to give a life sentence and then parole eligibility immediately. Oh my gosh. I am just so grateful for Kathleen. Hope we see more of her mic drops in the future. I don't know if you noticed, I threw in there as a tribute to Richard his logo. That's his YouTube emoji, and you know he drew that. He's an artist. For those of you who don't know, Richard, I met Richard. I've never seen him or heard his voice. Might be catfishing me, but he reached out initially when the channel really first started and said, "Hey, let me draw you a logo." And I'm like, "Well, I don't have the budget for it." He's like, "No, I'm not going to charge you anything." And I was skeptical at first, but he gave the logo we have is Richard made it, and also the banner, and a bunch of our emojis. And one day we'll have him on. For those of you who, you know, I've never met him, but one day we'll have him on. But he's a really interesting guy. He's old enough to be my father's age. And vet, and has amazing stories and amazing vintage cars. I've seen him. Beautiful wife. He's been going through health struggles, but a survivor, somehow surviving it. It's amazing what he's been able to accomplish. And he does this as a passion. This is part of his life drive, is to bring awareness to all the problems in the legal system, specifically around children. So with that, we'll move to the next hearing.
Today,
I'm good. How are you?
good. How's King County?
It's definitely better than prison, that's for sure.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. You okay there?
Yes, sir.
All right. How's the food?
Better than prison.
Better in prison. Do you get to go outside at all?
Yeah, about
It's
an
hot.
hour every other day. Definitely hot. Yeah.
I've heard you guys are struggling down there in southern Utah, yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
On record.
This is a time and place set for a rehearing for Ethan Montrose, offender number 247-850. Is that you, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Ray Reynoso. I'm a hearing officer with the Board of Pardons and Parole, and I'll be conducting your hearing today. I'll be taking testimony from you this afternoon, so I will need to place you under oath. If you could raise your right hand for me, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. Thank you. You can put your hand down. Mr. Montrose, did you receive 7 days written notice of this hearing?
Yes, I do.
Did you receive your blue disclosure packet?
Yes, sir.
you have a chance to review the information in that packet?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions or concerns about that information?
No, I don't.
And am I saying your last name correctly?
Montrose, yes, sir.
Montrose? Okay, all right, good. So the board conducted an original hearing and then scheduled this hearing and expected completion of sex offender treatment and you to remain free of major disciplinary violations. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, it is.
And you completed sex offender treatment in March of 2024.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right, what'd you learn?
A whole lot. Too much to talk about in one session, I think.
Okay, I understand that. I get that because your commitment offenses are pretty serious, yeah?
Yes, sir, they are.
Okay. Were you under the influence of any drugs when you committed these offenses?
Yes, sir, I was.
What were you using?
Marijuana and Adderall.
Were you prescribed the Adderall?
No, I wasn't.
How often were you using?
The cannabis every day, the Adderall, maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
Sorry, I'm just reading something. Okay. No gang affiliation?
No gang affiliation, that's one.
Okay. How's your mental health doing right now?
It's definitely improved since I've done the program. It's helped a lot. I learned a lot about self-forgiveness and, processing grief and anger and everything related to that. So definitely in a better place than I was a year ago.
Tell me about processing grief or anger.
Aside from disgust at myself, I think grief is one of the most prominent feelings that I've experienced, having committed the crimes that I have.
Okay.
Just at the amount of emotional pain and trauma that I've inflicted upon people and all the relationships I destroyed as a result of my actions. It's been hard to get over. But the program and the assignments and the therapists especially help me process help me understand what led me to do those things and help me realize that I'm not perfect. Basically.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
How's your physical health?
It's fine.
Okay. Do you have any mental health or physical health conditions or issues that would prevent you from being successful on parole?
No, sir.
And as I noted, you've completed SOTP in March, but since you've been here, it looks like you've completed quite a few programs.
Yes, sir. I've done the core SOTP and several life skills while I was in the program. Anger management, financial literacy. I think there was one on relationships or communication.
Relationships, yeah, okay, good. And alcohol and drug education,
Yes.
that's good. Okay, and no disciplinary violations since your last hearing?
No, sir.
You wrote that you plan on either residing at a halfway house or renting an apartment in West Valley?
Yes, I do have the address for the apartment, so that is where I plan to parole.
Okay, cool, okay. And you can find employment in Either fast food or casual dining?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Here's the two things I'm concerned about, Mr. Montrose, is number one is according to the PSI, is that over 2,300 files were located on your devices. 468 identified children and almost 1,800 law enforcement had previously seen. Do you agree to that?
Yes, sir, I do. That sounds about right.
That is honestly a secondary concern. In almost 21 years of law enforcement, very rarely do you see a small amount of files in a case like this. Okay, 2,300 is not abnormal. My bigger concern is that one of your victims and possibly two are relatives. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
and not only are they relatives, they are immediate relatives, correct?
And a cousin, yes.
And a cousin. Okay. Not only am I obviously concerned for their well-being, but also their safety. I am also concerned about your well-being and your safety. Okay. Mainly because you did mention relationships that have been ruined as a result of this. But part of the board's order is that most likely you are not to have contact with those two individuals. Okay.
I understand. Yes.
I want you to be aware of that. I don't know how else to put it. That was kind of disturbing to see that. And like I said, not only am I concerned about their well-being and their safety, also about your well-being and your safety as well, okay? I'm not saying it's going to happen. I do not condone it, and I do not promote it. However, if and when you are released, there could be some negative feelings towards you that arise. Okay. So I want you to be aware of that. Okay. Do you have anything else you would like the board to know?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. When you receive the board's decision, you will receive, as part of that decision, there will be a note that says this decision takes into consideration program completion. Okay. That means the board has acknowledged you have completed sex offender treatment program. Okay.
Yes, sir, I understand.
Let's talk about two dates real quick. The first one is what's your sentencing guideline date, or what's commonly referred to as a matrix. For you, that date has passed. It was January 14th of 2024. So obviously the board cannot release you prior to that date. You will be above guidelines. There will be a note explaining that you were above guidelines due to the board expecting you to complete sex offender treatment. Okay.
I understand.
The second date for you is what's called your expiration date. That is, as of right now, the date that the board can keep you incarcerated or on parole. That is January 14th of 2035. Now, this date can change. If you commit a new offense for which you're sentenced to prison, that can change your expiration date. If you have gone from supervision, that can also change your expiration date, okay?
Okay.
Do you have any questions for me, Mr. Montrose?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay, here's what will happen going forward. Is I will type up my report and I'll submit it to the board this week. Takes 3 out of the 5 board members to agree to make a decision. Once that decision is made, they'll notify you in writing through inmate mail. If you have friends or family who want to know what the board's decision is, the board, or they can check the board's website and it'll be updated as soon as a decision is entered. Now, it can take the board anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks to make a decision. So don't expect a decision tomorrow or later this week. Additionally, there is a possibility of some hearings coming up that could delay a decision in your case because those hearings are going to take precedence over yours and the board needs to deal with those immediately, okay?
I understand.
All right, thank you, Mr. Montrose. We will conclude this hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kane County.
Yep, thank you, guys.
So the Utah Parole Board they granted this roach. They granted him parole actually as of September 24th, 2024. You can't make it up. Keep in mind, he was only convicted on June 19th of 2020. How can you parole a monster that has images of very close family members? We don't know how close. And he gets paroled after 4 years? There is no curing this roach. There is no fixing him with some programs, but Utah did it. And we see this with Utah all the time. You know, he had a 45-year sentence. You know, we're used to seeing 100-year sentence, 200-year sentence, and it's just a gimmick. Here's this, this is 45 years. And he's out after 4. Why? To whose benefit? To what worldly purpose? Oh my gosh. This parole board interviewer, and it's taken, a while to get to, we'll go over the information that we have in this case, but you could tell his disgust. And apparently he was a parole officer and a CO, a police officer and a CO in his previous career. And you could tell his disgust. And I even think he hinted something. He said, even for your safety. This was close family members. And, if you get out, we have to be concerned about your safety. And I loved that. I loved that he just threw that out there. And he must have some type of written statement or something. Maybe not. Maybe he was just so disgusted by it. And he's like, I've been a police officer. We see these things all the time. But what we don't see all the time are images of close relatives in your collection. Yet Louisiana. Yet Utah paroled. What a fake state when it comes to this kind of stuff. And you never would have thought, if you just read about sentencing, my first thought of Utah was, wow, they're a tough state, but they're not. They're a gimmick. So on January 16, 2020, officials allegedly found more than 2,000 explicit images of children on his device. A probable cause statement from Utah County said that Ethan Douglas, who was 20 at the time, was arrested and is facing 10 charges of exploitation of a minor, second-degree felony. Now, let's give kudos to Dropbox. So on September 17, 2018, Dropbox filed a cyber tip line report with the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children regarding an email address, the statement said. Dropbox reported that the suspected that the suspect user allegedly uploaded 930 files of CTP to a Dropbox account. The arresting officer reviewed the reported images and videos and confirmed they were CP, with some of the videos allegedly featuring female toddlers. And they released this monster. They released him. You know what we should do? I'm a huge fan of what is it? Predator Poachers or Predator Catchers, Alex Rosen, Sour Pickles, Fried Pickles. Sorry. I'm saying I'm a huge fan. I am. I promise. I'm just not good at I watch, I think, every episode. We should give him tip-offs to some of these parolees because it's like, what do you think is going to happen when someone who does this gets back out of prison? Really, what do you think is going to happen? So on January 28, 2019, Dropbox file, okay, a 2-year-old girl. Using the information from the first cyber tip line report, the arresting officer located a valid Utah's driver's license for Ethan Douglas. The officer conducted surveillance of his address and located a vehicle registered to Montrose. A residential search warrant was obtained on October 29th, 2019. You see, look how slowly things move, though. The first reports filed September 17, 2018. It takes until January 28, 2019 for another report to be filed. Then all the way to October 29th, 2019. I mean, this is valuable time that nothing happened. Why? Why? Oh, well, it was a tough time of year, I'm just saying, it's crazy. I think things are changing. I don't actually have no idea. Things are changing. But anyways, the officer interviewed Montrose, who told him that he has 2 email accounts that have his name in them. But either the accounts in question belonged to him. Montrose explained that when he created the emails, he used a combination of his name and birth date and only used Google's email domain to create accounts. He denied uploading CP to Dropbox. The arresting officer then told Montrose that one of his email addresses reported to the cyber tip line has the suspect's last name and 2 of the thumbnails and his birth date. I do love that they're just brilliant geniuses. It's like, yeah, go use an email with your last name and birth date and to do your crime. Good job. After I confronted Montrose with the email reported by Dropbox and uploaded to Dropbox. Oh my gosh. And these are only the dumb ones they catch. That's the sad part. He gave a blank stare. So when the detective told him about this, he gave a blank stare, paused for a few seconds. The statement said, and then he requested an attorney. And sadly, he knew to do that. I stopped the interview. I seized 7 electronic media storage devices from the residence. On December 12th, Google responded to a search warrant and provided IP logs for all of his Gmail accounts. The IP address was listed in every county as the IP. A search of the suspect's Samsung cell phone was performed, and the officer found an HTML link that led to an image depicting 4 frames. One of the images within this frame was one of the same images of CP reported to NCMEC. A review of the account and forms showed that Montrose messaged other users and allegedly uploaded over 20 images of a 6-year-old female with whom he held a position of trust. He's one of those guys that we see in Alex Rosen's show who's going on Telegram and dropping, I think what they call these are mega links, and of a 6-year-old. So was it his niece? Was it his... Yep. 6-year-old. Thousands of files of sex abuse material were found on Montrose' device, and in his social media accounts, the statement said, I submitted 2,320 files. Montrose was transported to Utah on $100,000 bail. And yeah, I mean, I guess he's going to have to watch his back. That's my guess. And let's see what happens. But Utah does not care about victims. They don't care about protecting their communities. They don't care at all. Because even though a judge, and give the judge credit, give the DA credit, they said they have the evidence, unlike we see in Louisiana and Connecticut, where it's like, well, they have all the evidence, but they only give, 4 or 5 year sentences. But Utah, you might say it's worse. They give a 45-year sentence. They give life sentences with 1 year parole eligibility, even less, and they parole. Why? And this is part of why we do this. Hopefully, we can bring awareness, and awareness will bring change. I do believe that's possible, because right now, I don't believe people understand what's happening in their own states. And with that, I'll let you go.